बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम।
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. The first verses I want to recite are the Holy Quran, chapter 4, verses 58 to 59. Inna Allaha ya'murukum an tu'addul amanati ila ahliha wa iza hakamtum bainan nasi an tahkumu bil adl. Inna Allaha ni'ma ya'izukum bih. Inna Allaha kana sami'an basira. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم فإن تنازعتم في شيء فردوه إلى الله والرسول إن كنتم تؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر ذلك خير وأحسن تأويلا. Surely Allah commands you to make over trusts to those worthy of them, and that when you judge between people, you judge with justice. Surely Allah admonishes you with what is excellent. Surely Allah is hearing, seeing. O you who believe, obey Allah and obey the Messenger and those in authority from among you. Then if you quarrel about anything, refer it to Allah and the Messenger. If you believe in Allah and the last day. This is the best and the more suitable to achieve the end. The next one is the same chapter, verse 135. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu kunu qawwamina bil qisti shuhada'a lillahi walau ala anfusikum awil walidaini wal aqrabin in yakun غنيا أو فقيرا فالله أولى بهما فلا تتبعوا الهوى إن تعدلوا وإن تلووا أو تقبضوا فإن الله كان بما تعملون خبيرا. O you who believe, be maintainers of justice, bearers of witness for Allah, even though it might be against your own selves, or your parents, or your near relatives, whether he is rich or poor. Allah has a better right over them both. So follow not your low desires, lest you deviate. And if you distort or turn away from truth, surely Allah is ever aware of what you do. And then chapter 5, verse 8, where more or less the same instruction is repeated. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu kunu kawwamina lillahi shuhada'a bil qisti wa la yajrimannakum shana'anu qawmin ala alla ta'dilu ya'dilu huwa aqrabu للتقوى واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. O you who believe, be upright for Allah, bearers of witness with justice, and let not the hatred of a people incite you not to act equitably. Be just, that is, nearer to observance of duty, and keep your duty to Allah. Surely Allah is aware of what you do. And the last is chapter 6, verse 15. قُلْ إِنِّي أَخَافُ إِنْ عَصَيْتُ رَبِّي عَذَابَ يَوْمٍ عَظِيمٍ. Say, surely I fear, if I disobey my Lord, the chastisement of a grievous day. The last verse that I have just recited is the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam being told by Allah that if he disobeys Allah, he will have to account for it to him. And that is the essence. That is the essence, the foundation of any successful society. How did the Holy Prophet act? These are the instructions of the Holy Quran. How did the Holy Prophet act in relation to these instructions? Because that shows, the last verse I recited shows that everyone is accountable. Every single person. God says to the Holy Prophet Muhammad that if you do not follow my instructions, then I'll hold you to account. A man as great, as pious, as righteous, about whom we cannot imagine, God still says in the Holy Quran, tell them, no one is above the law. And the Holy Prophet put this into practice. There was a woman of Bani Makhzum, and her name was Fatima. She shared her name with the name of the daughter of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. And these people had just embraced Islam. And this tribe was influential and powerful and so on. And this lady was caught stealing. And she was brought to the Holy Prophet. And because they had embraced Islam, she was going to be judged in accordance with the Islamic law. And now, the Quraysh wanted to intercede on her behalf. You know, nudge, nudge, put in a good word for her. That's an influential tribe. They've just embraced Islam. We don't want to make them angry. 1,000 other political considerations. They'll cause so many more people to embrace Islam. So, the Quraysh wanted to intercede, but they were afraid of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's reaction. So They asked Osama bin Zaid because they knew that the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallam had great affection and love for him. And after Osama had stopped talking, the Holy Prophet turned to him and he said to Osama, do you intercede in the matters of the limits prescribed by Allah? That is, law has been laid down. Whoever laid it down. In this case, it was God. But it doesn't matter. So the Holy Prophet is saying, you want me to do a favor, go against the law of Allah. And then rather than replying Osama, the Holy Prophet called all the people to gather in Masjid an-Nabawi. And he went and he made a speech. He gave a sermon. And he said to people, nations before you were destroyed because they discriminated between the leaders and the common people in dispensation of justice. Listen to the Holy Prophet's words. Nations before you were destroyed because they discriminated between leaders and common folk in dispensing justice for crimes. The leaders were spared while the weaker ones were punished. I swear by Allah that if this Fatma had been the daughter of Muhammad, then I would have subjected her to exactly the same punishment. Here God said, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who we cannot even conceive, will disobey God. But God says, tell everyone that all human beings are going to be held to account. And here is the Holy Prophet Muhammad. He is saying that even if this is an explanation of the verse of the Holy Quran I've just recited to you, where God says, O you who believe, be maintainers of justice, bearers of witness for Allah, even though it may be against yourselves, your parents, or your near relatives. And people knew that the Holy Prophet Muhammad held Hazrat Fatima Raziyallahu Ta'ala very dear and very close. Her husband was Hazrat Ali Raziyallahu Ta'ala, who, when the Holy Prophet was migrating from Makkah to Medina, lay down in the Holy Prophet's bed. So that Kuffar of Makkah would think that the Holy Prophet is still asleep, because they knew there was a plot afoot to try and martyr the Holy Prophet. But his own daughter, who is Hazrat Ali's wife, he says, if he done this, I would have subjected her to the same punishment. And the point about justice is that even whenever you find out you've done something wrong, you publicly acknowledge it and you put it right. A caravan arrived in Medina, and they wanted someone to stand guard over the caravan. They didn't know, they were strangers who these people were. And they happened to see Hazrat Umar, who was the head of state. And they mentioned their difficulty, and Hazrat Umar took Abdul Rahman bin Auf, Raziyallahu Ta'ala, and they stood guard. A head of state and a special advisor are standing guard for this caravan. But anyway, Hazrat Umar heard a baby crying. So the baby will not stop. So Hazrat Umar went to the baby's mother and said, fear Allah. You are watching over this baby and the baby is crying. You should look after your child properly. And the child stopped crying after a little while, and Hazrat Umar went away. And a short time later, the same thing happened. Hazrat Umar went and asked the mother again, why don't you look after your baby properly? And the same thing happened a third time, and Hazrat Umar now became very angry, and he scolded the mother to say that, you're not a very good mother. Your child keeps crying and you're not feeding it properly and so on. And she said, well, it's not my fault. She didn't recognize Hazrat Umar. She just thought it was, some god. She said, it's not my fault. Referring to Hazrat Umar, she said, he has said that once a child is weaned off the mother's feeding him, breastfeeding him, then the state will give the child what you would call their child benefit these days. So I'm trying to wean my child off, but he's too young. He's only a few months old. And he keeps crying and asking for milk. But I want to take him off milk as soon as possible so that we can get this benefit, this child benefit. So Hazrat Umar kept quiet. And in the meantime, call for Fajr prayer was announced. And Hazrat Umar went to lead the prayer. And he was unable to lead the prayer. He was so distraught. He was crying. He was crying so hard that people could not understand what part of the Holy Quran he was reciting. And afterwards they asked him, they said, why are you so distraught? And Hazrat Umar said, my hereafter is destroyed. I am ruined. And people said, you were ruined? How is that possible? He said, I have been putting the children of the believers in pain. And he then mentioned the whole incident, and then he called the crier and said, go out and announce that no woman is to try and wean a child off breast milk by force just to get child allowance. Every child will receive child allowance from birth, whether they're being breastfed or they're not being breastfed. See, this is what you do when you make a mistake. You accept your responsibility. Which head of state do we see doing this? People are taken away. They're tortured in prisons. They're taken away to Guantanamo Bay. They're waterboarded. They're tortured. Which head of state has taken responsibility? Oh, they're terrorists. So why aren't they on trial? Well, we don't have any proof to put them on trial. So how do you know they're terrorists? And that is what the world has come to. If you have position, if you have power, you can do whatever you want. But here is Hazrat Umar crying and lamenting in public. Crying and lamenting in public that he did these babies an injustice, and they were put to pain with their mothers trying to wean them off breast milk too early. Recently, there was a conference about law in the UK and so on. And Lord Phillips quoted the views of the British constitutional theorist Albert Dicey. And he defined the English approach to law as in these words: every official from the Prime Minister, notice what the Quran said to the Holy Prophet Muhammad, even if you disobey, you will be held to account. And Hazrat Umar, and what the Holy Prophet said, every official from the Prime Minister down to the constable or the collector of taxes be under the same responsibility for every act done without legal justification as any other citizens. And this is patently not what is happening in the world. It doesn't matter which country it is, whether it's UK or USA or Pakistan or Germany or Japan or whatever. This is not happening. The powerful, the well-connected, the rich, they're getting away, literally getting away with murder. And the poor man is charged with jaywalking if he runs across the road when the light is red. I ended the last sermon by saying that it was sad that our leaders all over the world, whichever country it is, are arrogant. And one sure sign of arrogance is that when they make laws, they say the law is not for me. I am above the law. It's for people in the world to isolate, the people in the street to isolate, not those living in palaces and palatial houses and government official residences. That's a sure sign of arrogance, that they think they're above and beyond the law. And we've had many examples of such behavior by those in positions of authority. And they continue to emerge. They do no one any favor by this arrogance that they display. Just to say, I made a mistake is not enough. Would the same explanation, oh, sorry, I made a mistake, had been accepted, would have been accepted by the police or the courts if you or I did the same thing? If not, then why should we accept that if someone in authority does it? I remind you of the words of the Holy Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nations before you were destroyed because they discriminated between the leaders and the common man when they dispensed justice. The leaders were spared, while the weaker people were punished. Apply these words of our great prophet to what we see happening all around us today. And remember that warning, and let it be a lesson for us that if we are to survive as a nation, as human beings, then everyone, as Lord Phillips said, from the Prime Minister down to the constable, everyone needs to be equal before the law. बारकल्लाहु लना व लकुम फिल कुरानिल अज़ीम व नफ़अना व इय्याकुम बिल आयाति व ज़िक्रिल हकीम इन्नहु तआला जवादुन करीमुन मलिकुन रऊफुर रहीम। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि नहमदुहु व नस्तईनुहु व नस्तगफिरुहु व नुमिनु बिही व नतवक्कलु अलैहि व नऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिन शुरूरि अनफुसिना व मिन सय्यिआति अमालिना मन यहदिहिल्लाहु फला मुदिल्ल लहु व मन युद्लिलहु फला हादिय लहु व अशहदु अन ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह व अशहदु अन्ना मुहम्मदन अब्दुहु व रसूलुहु। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मदिन व अला आलि मुहम्मदिन कमा सल्लैता अला इब्राहीम व अला आलि इब्राहीम इन्नका हमीदुम मजीद। अल्लाहुम्मा बारिक अला मुहम्मदिन व अला आलि मुहम्मदिन कमा बारकता अला इब्राहीम व अला आलि इब्राहीम इन्नका हमीदुम मजीद। अल्लाहुम्मा अंसुर मन नसर दीन मुहम्मदिन सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम वजअलना मिनहुम वख्ज़ुल मन ख़ज़ल दीन मुहम्मदिन सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम वला तजअलना मिनहुम। इबादल्लाह रहमुकुमुल्लाह इन्नल्लाह यामुरु बिल अदलि वल इहसानि व इताइ ज़िल कुर्बा व यन्हा अनिल फ़हशाइ वल मुनकरि वल बग़yi यइज़ुकुम लअल्लकुम तज़क्करून। उज़्कुरुल्लाह यज़्कुरकुम वदऊहु यस्तजिब लकुम व लज़िक्रुल्लाहि अकबर वल्लाहु यअलमु मा तस्नऊन। अल्लाहु अकबर अशहदु अन ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह अशहदु अन्ना मुहम्मदर रसूलुल्लाह हय्य अलस सलाह हय्य अलल फलाह क़द क़ामतिस सलाह क़द क़ामतिस सलाह। अल्लाहु अकबर ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह अल्लाहु अकबर। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन अर्रहमानिर रहीम मालिकि यौमिद्दीन इय्याका नअबुदु व इय्याका नस्तईन इहदिनस सिरातल मुस्तकीम सिरातल लज़ीना अनअमता अलैहिम गैरिल मग़दूबि अलैहिम वलद्दोलीन आमीन। वद्दुहा वल्लैलि इज़ा सजा मा वद्दअका रब्बुका वमा क़ला वलल आखिरतु खैरुल लका मिनल ऊला वलस्सौफा युअतीका रब्बुका फतरदा। अलम यजिदका यतीमन फआवा ववजदका दाल्लन फहदा ववजदका आइलन फअगना फअम्मल यतीम फला तक़हर वअम्मा अस्साइला फला तनहर वअम्मा बिनिअमति रब्बिका फहद्दिस। अल्लाहु अकबर। समी अल्लाहु लिमन हमिदा। अल्लाहु अकबर। अल्लाहु अकबर। Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا وإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. Allahu Akbar. Sami Allahu liman hamidah. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah. Allahumma antas Thank you for joining us for our Friday service. Our next broadcast will be tomorrow, 1 p.m. on Pure Discussions. Pure Discussions, which is a WhatsApp group. And then, of course, next week we'll be back to our normal broadcasts, Monday to Friday. With a prayer that whoever you are and wherever you may be, regardless of your religion, race, color, creed, sect, etc., may Allah keep the whole of humanity under His protection and free from harm. Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, and goodbye.